Hey everyone, it's Dr. Hillary from Rangeline Chiropractic. I am here with Victoria today. She is going to talk to us about what's going on with the housing in our economy. Victoria, tell us about yourself and then jump into like all this housing stuff that's going on.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me, Dr. Hillary. I work for, through the company FC Tucker. I am on the Glascock team, which the team lead is my father, Dean Glascock. And I have been working for just over a year now. Our team has been around for about 30 years. And the economy is certainly interesting with what it has done to the housing market right now. COVID, everything's improved, obviously, with everything. But we've seen interest rates at very, very low, and things are just flying off the market. So we have less than half the inventory that we need to do at this time of the year.
That's so crazy. And I hear that all the time. And I'm always asking you and your dad, like, how's it going? Because I just hear so many people buying and trying to sell. And I guess more people selling than buying, to be honest, right?
Unfortunately, yes. Yeah, there's a lot of movement happening and things happen quickly. So if you're looking to buy, you want to make sure you have everything in order because that house isn't going to sit there for very long.
Do you guys like hit up a certain area? Like, is it all Hamilton County, or like, is it all of Greater Indianapolis?
All the great Minneapolis, we typically like to stop when, like if you go south, it's Greenwood, and we like to stop before you get to Muncie, but that's just the preference of our team. But then there you have, other agents in other areas that we can direct people to if they're wanting to outside of that range.
Yeah, nice. Like, did you say it's like half as much inventory as you guys expected? That's crazy, isn't it? Wow.
Yes, yes, it is. Yeah, I honestly thought that with COVID, things would have tapered off a bit more than they did the first few months, definitely. I think with not everyone knowing what was going on. So about this time last year, things started trailing off. But then it just kept going. So typically it is the summertime that you get a lot more sellers and buyers. I think that has to do greatly with schools, not wanting to disrupt children's, school year. But I mean, we're still seeing right now it's very hot, so it's hard to buy right now.
Yeah.
But if you're willing to, again, those interest rates are so low that I can understand why people don't want to pass that up.
I know. It's crazy when I asked you and you said 3%.
Yep.
Has it ever been lower than that? Like, I feel like this is like barely any percentage.
It has been lower. It's been a bit lower. Earlier, honestly, just a few weeks ago, it was in that 2.5% range for a 30-year. And it's at, I think it's 2.375 for a 15-year right now. So I know it's so low.
It's so amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always excited when I hear people tell me that they bought or sold, because I'm like, good, you're one of the lucky ones that got to do it, right?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I know sellers do a whole lot, not even having to do a bunch of showings, which is nice again with COVID. But they're keeping it short and sweet. This is the time frame we're going to allow showings, and if you want it, you need to write an offer that day because it'll be gone by the next 2-3 days. Typically, we see something on the market for a few weeks, but right now we're seeing things on the market for about 7 days.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. I know. Yes. And I asked you and your dad about other, how quick things are selling, and it's just amazing how many offers people get, right? And you guys have to compete with like more than 10 offers. Like, that's just crazy when I hear like 15 offers were put in like in one day, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yes, it is tricky. And we've had to kind of think outside of the box on what to do with the buyer side of that. So thinking, can you give the seller a closing date that they would like instead of pushing them to close to your date? That could be something that's a little bit more attractive to them for your offer. Obviously, cash and able to do that, that's easy for them then. But if you do have a mortgage and it ends up going above the asking price and it doesn't appraise at value, you as a buyer need to ask yourself, am I willing to cover that difference there? So that's something that's been coming up, which typically is not something we normally deal with. So there's just little things that you can put in the offer to kind of spice it up to help yourself out if you're on the buying side.
Yeah, I have heard that a lot too from other people telling me that they are selling for way more than they thought the house was worth. And I thought, so that means that buyer has to fork over like the extra 50K or something, maybe that just because they want that house, right?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And I think that's where you get into trouble with certain price ranges. There's been a lot more investment groups that have started to spring about, which while that's particularly in flip areas, fixer upper areas, it does kind of push out the first time home buyers because these investment groups can come in and pay cash and then you don't have to have an appraisal. So there's none of that issue. But if you have a mortgage, you're going to have to ask yourself, yes, am I willing to pay that extra 50K to cover it to make this deal happen?
Oh, yeah, I could see why that would put people in a bind, too.
Yes.
Whether or not they lost a job or working from home, but I even feel like I don't even work from home, but just being home so much more, I could see why people are wanting to just upscale their house or do, out because you're just in it all the time. Like you want to be in something that you love. I mean, I totally get wanting to move.
So that's what I wondered with vendors looking at, how has their business been? Because they're predominantly going into people's homes and, cabinetry, these are furniture companies, but they're all doing really well. And I think it is because we're at home so much. And I'm like, I really hate that sofa. I want a new sofa. So yes, everything in housing has been doing very well because of, I think, COVID.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you're glad to be on the team during this exciting times because
I am, yes.
When this is going to happen again, right? I mean, I suppose it could go on the rest of the year, but at some point it's got to end, right?
I hope so. For lots of reasons, I do hope so.
I'd be tired, Victoria.
I know. Well, I've met people out and about with, their masks on, and then I'm like checking social media to see, so I know what they actually look like without their mask on.
Yeah.
So
it is weird. It's nice to see you without your mask on today.
Yes, it's good to see you without yours.
Okay, so we talked about the mortgage rates. What else do you want to talk
about? I would just say, there has been another change in aesthetics for homes, inside and outside, and what we're seeing. So years ago, it was the grays, blacks and whites, very, neutral. And we are now getting into the browns, kind of the reds and tans again. Those are coming back. So I'm seeing that as another shift in the homes, especially as people are updating them. If you are going to put your home on the market, you do want to think about how neutral do you want to be, and then are you also with the times? Making sure you're updating not just for yourself, but also if you are planning to buy, what the buyers look for in homes right now. So that open floor plan is always, I think that's not going to go away. But that's still a huge thing people look for. And then I think we're seeing more office space, obviously, with COVID. So that's been a big thing too, is I need that extra bedroom so I can put my office equipment in there. And that was something, we didn't care as much about before, unless you were someone who worked from home every now and again. But that's been a big shift.
So like when you're showing homes, you're like, this would be a great office room,
yes.
right?
Yes, I do.
Instead of saying an extra spare bedroom, like this would be a great office.
Yes, and that's what people aren't thinking about, that spare bedroom for their guests. We don't know when a guest is going to be able to see this again. So yes, is this good? Do I have good lighting? Am I away from, the kids so I can take my phone calls? Those are what people are thinking about with their homes now.
That makes sense. What have you found are like the best areas to buy homes right now, or what are the worst areas maybe? I'm just kind of interested to see like what our Hamilton County area and surrounding what's going on.
Well, in general, it is the northern suburbs that are still very hot. There's not a whole lot of land left in Carmel to build on. Land prices are at a premium right now. We're just going to see that continue to happen as well. So there's still building everywhere. What I'm seeing are some of the hotter areas are Fishers and Westfield. And I think it's because they do have that land. But I'm also seeing that kind of downtown suburban feel. And a lot of people are looking for that. So they want to be close to downtown Zionsville or downtown Carmel, and Westfield. And then Fishers has worked on theirs, and it's gorgeous. And that's where people want to be, and they want the walking ability to and from some locations. And I think we were stuck inside so much, and we just want to be able to walk around, see people, easily go to a restaurant. So that I've seen, it's that closer, that downtown feel is what we're getting without wanting to be in downtown Indianapolis.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
If someone wanted to get in touch with you, how can they get in touch with you to ask more questions, or maybe they had some more things to ask you after this, or how can we get in touch with you?
Yeah, certainly. So my direct phone number is 317-513-7910. And then my email address is my first name, Victoria, my last name, Glascock, @talktotucker.com.
Well, that's so easy. And then I'm sure you'll put in on our Facebook stuff like information, so that if anyone wants to reach out to you. But such an exciting time with like the housing, and I'm really excited for all the people I know that have gotten a house or gotten to sell, and the prices they tell me. I'm like, that's awesome. They're like, I made 100,000 more, and I'm like, that's so exciting.
That is awesome.
I'm always so happy for everyone. Wonderful. Okay. So, and then I thought it was really interesting you mentioned the color. So you said browns and reds for the outside exterior?
Actually, interior. So we're going back to, no, you're totally fine.
Red on the outside, huh? I was trying to like envision, and I was like, that's interesting. That's not my cup of tea, but okay.
No, and it's not quite the 70s brown that we see, not quite that far, but more of that.
Right now. I'm like, I need brown shag. That's it.
No, don't do that. No. But instead of having, light gray walls or something, we're seeing back to more of the beige or the tan, and then getting back to, brown hardwoods or, brown cabinetry, and bringing those colors back in. That's what's coming back.
Good to know. So you're saying not the shag, correct?
No, not the shag.
Just kidding. Everyone listening, you need brown and orange shag. That's what Victoria is saying.
Right.
I'm just kidding. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to tell us about how the housing market's doing. As always, it's so much fun to chat with you.
You too, Dr. Hillary. Thank you for having me.